Hi, welcome back to Soul Talk with Dr. Stephanie and my wonderful
Jessica.
colleague, Jessica. And this is a space where we have real, raw conversations. It's about life and what's going on. But mostly, we love talking about healing, alignment, and the wisdom that all of us have. And I'm Dr. Stephanie Johnson. I'm a medical intuitive, doctor of acupuncture, Chinese medicine, and I'm also the creator of the Soul Wise method.
That's right. And how wise you are. I am Jessica Hinger. I am a budding entrepreneur and a Reiki master and energy healer. Yeah. We were actually, before we hit record, right? You had a great point. You said, let's just record this because, there's like, this is important stuff that we're discussing even before we get into our topic. So we'll just start a little bit with like just current life stuff. We were discussing, Stephanie, you asked me about how my son's doing. He's been really sick the last week. And it's just, it takes a toll on us moms, doesn't it? Like, we are obviously the creator of the child, right? And so we are forever linked. We share DNA, but like we also share like brain cells and stuff, that's why that like spiritual connection, or when you're far away from your kid, something's not going right, like usually that's correct, right? But what I was talking about before was that I really recognized how I felt like I was in this just heavy, hectic, energetic vortex, where it was like I kind of envisioned myself in a tornado where, all the tasks are flying around me, and I'm like, they're just trying to grasp on one thing or the other, right? And in the end, like I have so many different buckets on, the other side note is that my daughter has her birthday tomorrow and I have to plan this birthday party, but my son's been sick and heavily sick. And so, how do we, here's the question, how do we have enough energy, or how do we create those buckets for ourselves where we're not just continuously pouring out of our own energy source, right?
Which is
Because
like
that,
so important because we could also, one of the things we're talking about today are the stories we inherit. Or so it's not only the stories we inherit, but what are the stories that we're living in? And I think one of the biggest ones I see, and why I was like, oh, we should just talk about this because I think as moms, like I know for myself, when my son gets sick, I don't feel like I can function honestly. I mean, I can, but like I just want to take care of him and I just want to sit with him. He's 5. Like I want to make sure he's loved and nurtured and he doesn't feel left alone and like he's all out there on his own. And yet it also takes me back and like, what is the story that I'm creating or not creating? And then I think back to like, oh, when I was a kid, when I was sick, my mom left me alone. Like literally, like you're sick. Okay, I'll come and check on you in a couple hours. Whether or not that's true, right?
Mhm.
But I would say as I got older, I would say yes, it was true. Like she was like, sort of fend for yourself. Here's a glass of water and here's some medicine. Come out when you're
Holler
ready
if
to go
you
back.
need me, right? Yeah.
Right. So
Totally.
that story, now I come forward and I'm like, okay, that was the story I inherited, right? About
Yeah.
being, about how do you take care of people. I was like, I don't want that story. I don't want that story to be my, oh, excuse me, as I just burped. Life, real life. But
Releasing.
I will. But it's yeah, releasing that energy, right? In that old storyline. But I think
Mm,
like when we think about how do we tend to people, what is the story, the pattern that we
right.
learned that we carry on into our current life? And I think about like, oh, now what do? I go and I make sure, like, do you have enough blankets? Do you have enough water? Do you want me to lay with you? Do you want me to hold you? And I'm checking in, not all the time, obviously, if you're checking in, but giving the space to heal and if they're sleeping, but I make sure that I'm available because my origin story, I didn't have somebody that was there. I didn't have someone accessible. I didn't feel that someone was there to take care of me. I had to take care of myself. And again, though, it's a fine balance, right? Because I also don't want to create an overdependence. So these
Right.
nuances of, and I think that's where, like, when we begin to look at stories and what we talked about last time about beliefs and the patterns, like, they're all so interrelated. But how do we
Mhm.
shift it? But I think, like, for me, that's a great example of how what I learned is one story, how I have evolved it into this new one. But now I'm creating stories about what could happen, right?
And it's true. And then putting that energy forward in that same, it's that there's a good point to think about, or but it's like the reaction, the automatic reaction that we have, right? Like, for me in my life, when I was as a child, when I was unwell, there was very strong automatic reaction. Number one is like you're faking it, you're going to school, right? And so it's like, that whole thing is like, now, granted, my mom had probably a good reason to believe that, right? There was probably times that I skirted around and tried to fake out the situation. But like, so within my brain, it is the same. It's like I've noticed how it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, right? Like just drink more water, like, and I don't, it's like my brain has filtered out noticing those points, right? I have since being on this journey, and definitely with looking at myself and the words and beliefs and stories that I have in my head, I really recognize that, like, oh, I've actually always had it. Let's say it's the intuition, right? Because it's this intuition that's over here saying like your reaction says, oh, you're fine. I'm feeling your head. You're fine. Go to school. Right. But then the intuition slowly like, hey, check again. Like just, check with yourself, like with how you would check. Oh, babe, are you all right? Like, what do you think's going on? And like with the softer tone and like these with concerned eyes, right? Like this is a big thing too. It's like recognizing that which beliefs and which stories are the automatic reaction. That would be the story that we absorb, right? Like
Right.
within our bodies, within our minds, within the system without a choice. We didn't get to choose those, right? That's just what we were born into. And that's really like, it's a really powerful exercise to be able to stop the automatic reaction, right? And that's with anything in life. Let's be fair. I want to, hold on, give myself those 3 breaths. Just stop, take a breath. Okay, now how do I feel about that situation? Or what's the best way to move forward, right? But that takes work. That is not something that comes, again, automatic, because all of our automatic reactions are already in the DNA. It's in the memory, it's in literal thought. Like I can see how when thoughts are being created, like it's like there's already this strong stream that's going, right? And
Right.
so
It's that
we're like,
pattern recognition, right?
yep. And it's the newness that's supposed to come in and be like, hold on, like here's a new,
And
I
it's
don't
like,
know,
wait a
maybe a
minute, I don't want that new. I this
right.
this story that I've created and this pattern, I feel secure and safe in, even if it's not healthy, even if it's not good, right?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Hmm.
so
Totally.
it's so I think about like that, and I think about like just how those threads keep going on through us, right? And because stories are patterns, we talked last time about belief and how the beliefs we hold can be lies within themselves. And just as the story, like I think about like you've heard stories of people that there's 5, 6 siblings, okay, and they'll
Mhm.
have experienced the identical event,
Yeah.
and each of them processes it completely different. And I know myself personally with my siblings, there were a couple events that happened, and my sister's like, That's not what happened." I'm like, "Yes, it is." And brother's
Mhm.
like, "That's not what happened." Well, what did happen? How? What do you mean? And then I listened to her story. I'm like, never saw it that way. And then my
Yes.
brother will be like, "Well, this I don't remember it that way. I remember it this way." And then I
Mm.
share. But we were all in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And I know
Hmm.
several families that are like that. Or, there's one person that, "Oh, our parents weren't loving at all." And the other was like, "Oh, our parents were so loving." Right? Now, is it because they were taught, cared for differently, subtle things, whatever. We don't know. But how we create those stories throughout the experiences we have are so profound. And I always like looking at the that microcosm of immediate family, right? Because you're in the same situation, yet 5 people can have totally different reactions and ways that they will pattern that in the future, right? Or
Right.
avoid
And
things because of that patterning.
absolutely. And I think that's an excellent point that is also something to be brought up. People might know this, but they might not. It's more like if you are even like if you are 2 years apart, 2 years or more apart from from each sibling, you are literally getting raised by a different parent. And that is so clear. I think if anybody were to be watching this and thinking about it, like, holy crap, I know that my kids are 4 years apart. And I know that I was a completely different mother to my son than I was at the beginning with my daughter because there was growth that happened within that time, right? I'm curious though, like, what is a story that you can think of that you inherited without
I think the
recognition?
biggest one for me is, and I think this actually is a common one in particular, you'll hear me say this often for women, is this concept of not being able to rest, like
Yeah.
not being able to sit down, being in
So true.
constant motion all the time. Like I
Mm-hmm.
sit down and it's like for 5 seconds, and then that brain of mine, and even if you don't have the ADHD brain, I find that women, and this is a generalization, but for me, I was taught that you had to, like, you were always doing, there's no time to rest. There's no
No,
time to
rest is
rest. You're
wasteful, right?
lazy if you sit down. We
Yeah.
got things to do. Get up. The house needs clean. This needs done. That needs done. And so all of that, like, I just always, even when I was exhausted, that story was that you just push through. Like you didn't have an option to be sick. You didn't have an option to not do something. You didn't have an option to chill out, right? And
Right.
it always felt like I had someone else's voice in my head.
Hmm. So it's
And,
like a
and it's like,
family
how long
operating.
did that run? And I realized,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm in my 50s now. And for me, I think, I'm finally, it's okay. Now I have to do a
Hmm.
lot of self-talk because I mean, it's
Right.
okay. I don't have to do anything. It's okay to leave the dishes. It's okay. Yes, there's a dust bunny over there. It's all right. It's
Hmm.
fine. Oh, the weeds need pulled outside. That's okay. They'll be there
Hmm.
tomorrow. But though that constant self-talk to keep reprogramming it. Now, the more that I've done it, what I have observed is that I'm not as anxious. I don't
Hmm.
get like my anxiousness shows up in me getting stiff and like catching my breath, right? And I'm like, oh, and it's like a stiffness, like a little robot, right? Little robot.
Yo, yeah.
And now I feel that as I'm giving myself that permission that, oh, I can rest. And sometimes like, I'm going to take a nap and I don't nap. I'm like, okay, I don't feel it. Like, obviously, I don't want to nap. I'm just going to
Mhm.
sit here. And now I go outside and I just sit. There's nothing there. Make sure I put my phone away and I drink my coffee, which is a very different way of thinking, right? How about you? Like, what moment did you find, like, do you feel like, I mean, I have so many others. I mean, I think we all have so many, right? But like,
Oh yeah. This could be a 2 hour chat
yeah.
easily, right? Like we could pick it all apart. But like I would say, as I was considering it, it's really interesting. And I'm sure I'm not unique in this way as well, right? But I remember like when developing my core physical needs as a child, they were always met by my parents, right? And my mom often repeated often, my job as your mother is to make sure that you have food in your belly, clothes
Yes.
on your back, and a roof over your head, right? And so,
Right? That's it. That's
right,
it.
right. I
Forget
mean,
any
for her,
emotional stuff, right?
forget about it, right? Like that's all, that's kind of the bag or what is it? That like whatever the treat bag at school that somebody gets a reward, right? You get to reach in and just pull out what you see, right? That's like that. That's the type of emotional, connection one would get. And I'm not saying my mom was not warm. She definitely was. But when we are, again, this is not about like trash talking our parents in any way. This is like our recognition of where we're at and the type of, I don't know, it, anything I want to say kind of has a negative connotation, but these were our, okay, let's say our challenges as we grew, right? Like what we recognized and us pulling out and observing ourselves. The point about that story is that it's like a loyalty trap, right? Because it acknowledges like how heavy, sorry, acknowledging like how heavy it feels for changing and moving away and somehow even saying, was that the right thing? Was that the right way to be like to be raised, right? Like that all of my core needs were met, right? As far as what I knew from birth, right? And so that's really there. This is the work is like growing, is like making the choice to grow or choose differently, right? That you aren't leaving behind your people, your family, that you're not trash talking your family or the way that they were able to raise you. As you
I
can
think
see.
the important part
Mhm,
is to remember that you I think we forget that not only do we inherit our hair color, our eyes, and all the other genetic stuff, but we do inherit those stories. And
mhm,
every family has its own unique operating system, right? Like it's an unwritten, I don't know, rules that you have about like who you are, what you can expect, what does it mean to be successful, what's allowed to be said out loud, what's not allowed to be said out. And it's not necessarily something that anyone taught us, right? We absorbed it through the interactions, from the observations, from being at the dinner table or the silences at the dinner table, or we observed what got celebrated, what didn't get celebrated. And
mhm.
so it's all of these stories, and I'll say expectations, because stories are also expectations, right? That just came through, and there's that energetic fiber, right, and frequency.
Yeah, totally. And I was gonna ask, like, because I know that we jotted down a few notes and both of us are having that's not our strength. So
Right.
just with staying with these, I know that you came up with some great categories, right? Of different stories within our lives that we have inherited. One of them, let's start with something on everybody's mind. Let's start with success and money, right?
Okay,
Like
that's a good one.
what's your story with that you inherited from your family?
So, for me, I honestly, I never felt like our family, we were strictly middle class. I knew that our family did better than others in the area. And, when I talk about like my needs or my wants, they were all met. If I needed something, like I never worried about not having enough. And what's interesting is I always grew up that it was always going to be available. Even though
Mhm.
we didn't, we weren't like wealthy by any stretch of the means. But I also didn't grow up in this scarcity mindset, which my mom had. My father
Yeah.
had it, but my mom had. And what's interesting though is that when I met my first husband, that's when I actually learned scarcity. And I like flipped from this
And laugh,
abundant
right?
kind of mindset
Scarcity.
that everything just worked out and it just worked, right?
Mhm.
To being more fearful and being terrified that our car was going to be repossessed outside and not being able to sleep, that the tow truck was going to come, which was such a not how I had grown up. And it was very much what evolved in my 20s. And it took me a good, I'm going to say 16 years until one day it snapped on me like, oh, wait a minute. I'm absorbing his story about survival, and I live in an abundant universe. Like I live in abundance over here. I got to
Mhm.
let that go. And once I did, then things began to shift in my life again. But I do find it interesting how you can grow up with one story, then get into a relationship, and that story, I give away a lot of my power in that, which we'll talk in other episodes, but like I clearly like just got somehow sucked into that, right? That new storyline that I didn't feel good in. So I think that's the other thing is that when you think about stories that like about money and things like that, like do you feel good in it?
Mm.
Right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Um and now I'm definitely in I'm out of that survival piece. Thank God. Oh,
Hallelujah. Amen.
and I'm over here in this abundance. Like it just works out. I'm like,
Mhm.
yep, it works out. Why are you stressing
It'll
about it?
work
That
itself
bill's
out.
paid. It's already
Yeah.
taken care of. So, but that's how that's also though, interestingly, that's a story that I was raised with too,
Mhm.
but it still serves me.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Yeah.
other thing. There are some stories that we can have. I have a lot of other stories that don't serve me from growing up, but that's one that the world is plentiful. There's more than enough to go
Hmm.
around.
Hmm.
How about you?
That's
Like, what's your like take on all of that?
it's probably more it's definitely different. Same but different. It's my favorite way to explain anything because I feel like as humans we are all same but different. And so I was born I was born in Niger in the Sahara Desert, which is completely different way of living. And in this time, I lived there until I was 3. This is a completely desert area, right? I was born to 2 American parents, and my mother had never been outside of the continental United States. So for her to marry this guy and then get tossed into the Sahara Desert was a huge shock. There was a lot of lack in their in our raising. Then we moved to a more affluent area. We moved to the capital city of Mozambique. And there, honestly, as like a 5 to 8 year old, I thought I was a rich person. We had a maid, we had a guard, we had all of these different people that worked with us, worked in our home. And that was only because the country was so incredibly poor that any work, was appreciated, right? So we've always been middle class as well, right? We've always been like lower middle class. But living over there, obviously the dollar is very different, right? Like the things. So then coming to America when I was 10 it was like lack, abundant, then in America was lack, right? Like my mom was embarrassed. She thought she was poor. There was all these things. She wasn't sure if she was going to have money to buy us clothes for school, different things like that, right? So it's this completely back and forth, up and down type of feeling, right? And for her, I think that she didn't feel safe with money. But with my father, he was a very grounded person. And so he was like, that's all right. We'll work it out. The kids will have everything they need. In the end, we had a nice house and we all went to college. We all got our degrees, so it's like, it all worked itself out. And I think that was the nice counterbalance because my mom was very up and down as far as anxiety goes and all the things, right? And my dad was steady. So I think that really helped us have this balanced view. Um, so yeah, so it's like I remember, I've been manifesting the things that I want in my life, like since since I knew what manifesting was, right? Like I always knew that whatever it was I wanted, it might take a little while, but I know I'm going to get it. And I would. And of course I worked for it. I'm not just sitting here, in the corner just being like, it's coming, it's coming.
Dropping
Like
down right
I know
now.
we have to be grounded in we have to
Mhm.
have a good spirituality, but be grounded in it, right? And know that, hey, you do have to work, you do have to put in energy, you do have to put in effort. So,
Yeah, you
yeah,
need
so I
to
think
do action, right? In order to, as
absolutely.
you're speaking, the one thing that just popped into my head that I kind of forgot about that I grew up with was that this concept of credit and
Mm,
credit cards. My parents didn't have any credit cards, and anything that they bought, everything was paid for in cash. But it wasn't just my mom and dad; it was my uncles and their families as well, and my aunts. Like there was no concept of no, you don't carry debt. and you're now, except for your house, but then it was this kind of like, oh, you don't take a 30-year mortgage, you do a 15-year mortgage, you pay double on it, you
Mhm.
sacrifice in order to get it.
Mhm.
And so like those are things I think about. And now I think about it, like, oh my gosh, my credit card debt. Oh gosh, my student
Yeah.
loans. Oh God, can they just disappear? And with that said, I had a conversation with one of my good friends. He grew up very affluent, very wealthy. And I was really shocked one day to have this conversation with him because he was really afraid that he didn't have enough money. And which I didn't understand. And this is why. He said, and this is like when we were like in our early 30s, okay? Early 30s, mind you. And he goes, well, I have a few $1 million that I've saved, but I just don't feel like it's ever going to be enough. Like if something happens. And I think, okay, I
Bless.
think I have, I don't know, maybe 5,000 in my account, maybe if I'm lucky, again, in my 30s. I'm like, wow. And I was like, well, and instead of saying, wow, well, I can't believe that, or Jenny, I was like, well, tell me more. He's like, I always grew up that we had to, I don't want to say, was it like it was a responsibility, he said,
Mhm.
to make sure that you didn't overspend, that you were mindful, that you worked in a budget. And then in order to do that, you needed to make sure that you had the resources not only to take care for yourself, but to take care of your family.
Mhm.
And to make sure that like as you went on, to make sure that you were covered for any sort of emergency. And so I always think like if there was a big emergency. Now for him, he had a daughter who was born premature and was in the NICU for nearly a year. So he
Yeah.
had experienced that already. So for him,
Mhm.
like, yeah, that was millions of dollars. That
Mhm.
if our insurance hadn't covered it, I would have been on the hook for it. And oh my gosh, like, what if there's something else like that? Like now I got to make sure that I'm doubly prepared, right?
Mhm.
So I think about like this concept of like money and our relationship with it and the fear we have in it. But then I also think about the relationship of success. Like, what does it look like? And how have you found like success has changed for you? Because I know when I was younger, I needed to have like, I don't know, I was going to I always dreamed of being, a doctor, which I turned out to be, a doctor of
Yeah.
Chinese, acupuncture, or an attorney, or I was going to be a neurosurgeon. And so for me, I wasn't doing those positions because of the resources that would come with it. I wanted to do them because each of them offered to be of help to other people. And there was a
Mhm.
service aspect of it. And the money was nice, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I wanted to live a nice life. I didn't want to ever live in poverty or anything like that. And I worked to make sure that I have been able to not have to be there. Although I have struggled in my adult life and had to ask for resources and help at different points in my life. And they were lifelines for me. I don't want to begrudge that because I know that I've used them a handful of times in my life when things were bad. But then I was able that enabled me to reset and be able to come forward. And now I think about it's really interesting. I've been going through this thing of, what is sort of the next evolution of my life and what do I want it to look like? Like, do I really want to practice acupuncture one on one all the time? And I
Right.
love it and it fills me up, but like I want more, right? And then I think about like how much money do I need in order to maintain my life? And right now I want to be in maintenance. And
Mhm.
I don't need like sure it'd be nice to have a whole bunch more so I could pay off the debt, but it's like, oh, I want more to pay off the debt. But then after that I'm like, okay, do I have a nice place to live? It's beautiful. Can I do the things I want? Travel a little bit. Okay, yeah, like those are the things that are happy to me. And I think some people can listen and say, "Oh, well, aren't you lucky that you get those things?" But for me, that's a life I've been able to create from my stories, right? But now success looks very different to me than what it did when I was younger. And I think you see it now on TikTok, like the bling, bling, bling. I was never a bling, bling person, right? Or wanted to be flashy. But yeah, I wanted the really nice things. And now I'm like, I want a modest house, you know?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
want simplicity. I don't need a big house. It's a lot to clean, right? So how has success changed for you, have you noticed?
I think that having such a, I would say, global birth and raising and life in general, I've seen a lot of the earth, and I've seen a lot of different types of people, cultures, and ways of living. This, I feel like since I learned who Mahatma Gandhi was, I have adopted that be the change you wish to see in the world, right? I mean, I
I have
must have
that
been
little quote
probably,
in my dining room. It's like my
yeah,
favorite quote.
yeah. I mean, I must have been like 16, right? But it really touched me. It touched my soul when I read it for the first time. And that's really where I've measured my success. As far as I went to I don't have a path. Like I have my own path, but it isn't one that I can say like this is how it went. It's more like where I followed the path of my highest excitement and this beautiful way that I am still constantly grateful for. In college, I thought I wanted to go and be a teacher. I loved teaching and I loved kids and all the things. And I think spirit, beautiful as they always are, came through because I was paired up with a roommate who was in the teaching major. And let me just go ahead and say her motto was F my life, right? Like her classes, the things she had to do, like the stress that she was on. And I was undeclared the first year. So I was like, I don't want that like at all, right? So what did I do? I remember this moment looking through as a freshman, trying to declare what my major, looking through the course books and all the different majors they offered. And I saw religious studies and my whole body lit up. It was like, and I was like, oh, let's do that. Right. So then I got my bachelor's in the study of world religions, which was such an amazing study course. And it's always been part of me, I should say. So going from that, and my father said something that really has always stayed with me. He goes, I'm really impressed that you picked religious studies. I was like, really? Because it's like, I'm not going to make any money with that, right? Like, what am I doing with that, right? He goes, you're learning a lot of philosophy and lots of different like cultural things. And he goes, what's really college is about? It's about learning for yourself how to think for yourself. And this is a beautiful way to do that. And I was just like, damn, Dad, way to give me legitimacy. I love that. It's not some frou-frou thing that a lot of parents could have said, right? You're not going to make any
Also,
money with
bigger
that.
story, like a bigger container for you to live in.
Right, totally. So as far as success goes, it's always been for me, are all of my needs met, right? Is there any passion that I want to pursue? Am I able to pursue it, right? Hence the Reiki master program. Like that was huge for me. And that was like, I've raised the kids now, and now I need something for me, right? And that was another time that my whole body just lit up when I found Reiki. And so it was like, okay, this is the path I'm going on, right? Have I found success in that? In certain ways, absolutely. In monetarily ways, right? In the other ways that we can measure success, no, but that's okay, right? Because it has continued to help me evolve as a human. So when you ask me about success, the stories I inherited from my parents really were like, you got to work until you retire. You have to save for all the things, very basic, right? And I was like, I don't fit that. Like, it doesn't fit for me. I tried the desk job. I was a project manager for a software company. Like, I've done that too. So it's like, I've always been like, well, if I have everything that I need, that was a much easier story to change for me, I should say, because it was like, I have all of my needs met. I get to buy pretty gifts and things like that for myself. Like, then I'm good, right? Like,
Right.
I am able to pay all the bills. I have a roof over my head. So it is those simplistic things for me as far
What
as
you
that.
just said, I think that also I realized we also had that similar mindset that, you worked until you retired, but you worked it for a company. And
Yeah.
I tried that for a few years, but it wasn't my trajectory. Like I am a free spirit. I want to say I go by my own rules because I am a very much a rule follower and like in the legal way and all those, like I want to do what's proper and right, but on the other hand what I found is I couldn't be boxed into that structure, right? And everyone else in my
Day after
family,
day after day.
yeah, day after day, but everyone else has, jobs that they go to
Mhm.
someone else to work. For the past 25 years have created all of my jobs and have been an acupuncturist for 20 some years. So created it for me. And
Yeah.
that kind of leads me to like our story versus the inherited story. Like what stories do we create? And I'll never forget, like, similar to you, like I guess also in success is like if what I'm doing, does it light me up? Does it make me
Mhm.
happy? Do I feel good? Do I feel passionate? Because I know that if I'm doing what I'm aligned with and I'm happy about it, then the money, the resource, everything flows. When
Yeah.
I'm not in alignment and not happy, it's like shit is happening everywhere. I was like, what the hell happened over there? Right. But
Mhm.
I remember being an acupuncture school. It was like our first year, and our mentor, Bob Duggan, he was going around asking questions about something and asked for like a childhood story. And I brought up that, oh, when I was younger, like my childhood memory is I don't remember happy moments. I only remember being yelled at. And my father was an alcoholic and he would get physically abusive when he would drink. And he said, stop for a minute. He said, out of all the memories that you have, why is that the one that you want to create? And why is
Mm.
that the story you want to live in? And I mean, he said it a
Let's
lot more
just sit there. Wait,
than I am. But then
let's
he
just
said,
pause for a second. Let's just sit with that because that just gave me goosebumps all over the place. Like it's it's the
like, why?
repeated,
Like, why
yeah,
did you choose
the
that? He's like,
repetition. Yeah.
why don't you focus on the good parts? Why are you focusing on the bad? And I think that gave me, like, it was like,
Yeah.
we focus so much on the negative parts of the story, I feel like. And those are the sharings, right? Because I believe a misperception that in order to create connection, we have to prove suffering.
Yes.
And if we don't
Well,
prove suffering, then is my suffering greater than yours? It's like this competition, and it's not a competition. But that moment when he said that really got me to think, like, why do I focus on that? I never
mhm.
thought about that. And he said, well, if you could rewrite your story, how would you rewrite it? And I thought, and right away I was like, you know what? I remember. I can see my sister and I being 4 and 5 and these fields, and there's like yeah, little wheat grass. The grass is overgrown, and we're running through it, and we're sneezing because there's hay fever everywhere, And we're sneezing, but we'd lay in the grass and we'd blow the little pussy willow, things and make our wishes. And we'd look up at the clouds and make out, oh, do you see the dragon there? And oh, look, we're going to ride the horse there. And I just remember us laughing and holding hands, but I don't remember any adults. And I just remember her and the happiness, the joy. And so when I think now back to my childhood, I think about us on the swings laughing and running through the fields. And the other memory is yeah, it's there, but it's not in my forefront. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, it happened. But you know what? I had this really magical experience with my sister. And wow,
Mhm.
it was really special. We had so much fun. And we did. Like, we had so much fun growing up together. So if I take
Yeah.
the adults out of the picture,
Well,
I
yeah.
had a great childhood. I had a great childhood
Mhm.
with my sister.
Yeah.
So I think that's such an important thing, right?
Heck yeah. That is very
Um,
powerful. Absolutely. And the ability to recognize that light bulb moment of like, you're right. When we were talking last week about words or spells, right? Like somehow we put ourselves underneath others when we are sharing, right? Like, and with the suffering, and or one can think, well, shared pain is half pain, right? Like, so we share the things that are hard or the bad or the whatever because we need somebody to help us carry that load, right?
Right. And so I guess
And
the question is, we've been talking about like these different stories and sharing our own personal experiences to give like, just examples of some of the stories. And, we all have stories, right? But like,
yes,
why does it matter that we acknowledge them? Like, why does it matter? Because I think the important part is we can rewrite them. And that's why I shared that last story is here I had this one way of thinking. And then it's like, why am I focusing only on the bad? How
mhm,
much does that make up? Well, probably it made up 50% of my life, but I have 50% of my life that was also equally as good and wonderful.
mhm,
So I guess part of it is how do we rewrite those stories? So it gives
right.
us more ease. It brings us more happiness. It brings us more joy because Stephanie declare that when we rewrite our story, sure, okay, on this hand, yeah, oh, I have cancer, I have pain, I have this, I have all this pain. I can't get out of bed. I can't walk. The misery, right?
Mhm,
Yes, that can still exist, right?
mhm,
And if we rewrite the story and see all this good things, what
yeah.
I continuously observe clinically with my clients is that when they rewrite the story, then this other stuff begins to go way down. It's like you're on a radio station and the volume just went right?
Yeah.
And this keeps getting lower and lower. And yeah, they still right walk with the cane, but now they're
Mhm.
walking 3 blocks as opposed to just out their front stoop, right?
Wow.
Because they rewrote
Mhm,
the story. Oh, you know what? When I was younger, I used to love to walk all the time. You know what? I still like walking. I'm going to go
mhm,
walk. Not that I can't walk because I have a cane. No, I'm going to go walk because I rewrote my story. I'm going to go out there. So
mhm.
I think it's about like how do you choose what you want to carry forward. So do you want to carry forward shame, silence, blame, pain, all the negative adjectives, right? So what do you want to
100%.
carry forward with you?
And that's such a good point. And that's really, I think we're going to keep coming back to this through our conversations, but it's that, starting, there's only one place to start, and that's at the beginning, right? And wherever that is for each individual person. And that's that observation, right? Just observing what it is that you say, what it is that you think, all of those things. And at the time, remember, this is a judgment free observation. We are not saying, oh, I can't believe I think that, like, oh, there's that story again. Oh, again. Like, no, it's more like, oh, I noticed. Whoops. All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to change.
About.
Right. I'm going to change. Let me just switch that real quick. Right. Let me change the tape in the tape deck, old school.
And I think that's the
But
important part. We can change
mhm,
the record. We can
the
change
narrative.
the station.
Yeah.
But we've been taught, oh, this is the story. We're going to live in this for the rest of our life. No.
Right.
Like, and I
No,
feel like right now we're at this wonderful pinnacle in life, right? Where we're on this beginning of this new consciousness of awakening, where I believe as we step more fully into that conscious way of being, that we're going to see, holy crap, we could have changed the station all along.
the whole time.
The whole time. Oh, I'm going to try this one today. Let me try this one today. How does that one look? Well, that one feels pretty darn good. I like it. Like, I think we're going to see such an explosive expansiveness in our consciousness. However,
Mm,
I do believe in order to get there, though, we do have to go through what I call some of these other 3D programmings to unprogram us to cut the cords of the old stories, to cut the old patterns, right? Because if we don't make ourselves aware of it, we can't change it. So when
right.
we become aware, like, why didn't I think about this before? Like, oh my God, I can't. No, no, no. It's you thought about it now.
Mhm.
You thought
That's
about
right.
it now. And this
And
was
it's
the
like the
moment for you to say,
right.
I'm going to do something different.
Exactly. And when you're saying cutting the cord of that, it's like another way to think about it is to take that moment as an opportunity to reparent or rewrite, right? The
Mm-hmm.
story, reparent yourself. What is it that I'm missing in this moment? Like, why do I feel so terrible? Do I actually just need like a breath and a hug? I can't tell you how many times through this journey I have just stopped and hugged myself, because that's what it is I need. And no one's around to do that for me. And then also recognizing I have the power to do that. And it's within me to hug myself and say, I love you and everything's going to be okay. Right. Because the whole big point of this conversation, I think that's well, not the whole, this is not the whole point, but a very important point is that it's important to honor where we came from, those stories that we did inherit, right? We need to respect and honor them, right? It doesn't mean we need to agree with them anymore. It means that here, now we're at a choice point. We can choose and not just continue to repeat the story, because if nothing changes, right?
Take this with you. This week, we
Mhm.
want you to just notice, what beliefs do you have about love? We didn't even talk about love
Oh, yeah.
today.
So many.
Love, money, success, and health. There's such a litany of things that you
Oh,
can
yeah,
think about, right?
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
really think about those beliefs and those stories around each of those key areas in your life,
Mhm.
and what is the thread. And the question is, do you still believe that thread? Is that
Is it still
story still
valid?
serving
Yep.
you?
Is it still true? Yeah.
Is it
Mhm.
still true? Is it good? Is it big for you
Mhm.
to live in? Then there's no need to change it. Okay.
Right.
But if it's
Mhm.
making you tiny and feel powerless and not your most expansive, awoken self, if you will,
Mhm.
um, then perhaps it's time to look at it. And this is a week perhaps of getting a journal, jotting that stuff down. It's not a week that's like, I'm going to change it overnight. I was fortunate in that moment with my mentor. Once he said what it was, like, why are you doing that? What about this? And I had another option that, whoa, you mean I got a choice? I got an
Right.
option?
Mhm.
I I
Yes.
I caught it in that moment. So you might have that experience. And if you do,
Right.
that's fabulous. Then run with it, right? And if you
Mhm.
don't, it's okay. Then just notice. Just
Yeah.
notice.
With love and compassion, it's incredibly important. I I never recognized how I never gave myself compassion. I was always saying, you should have done that. You could, like, why didn't you do that? Why aren't you enough? Why did it's like, oh girl, you tired. Sit on down, like you're not gonna get it all done. And that's okay. Do what you can. Like my voice completely changed in my head to myself, you know?
Right.
And
So if
that's what
something's
yeah.
stirred in you,
Mhm.
make sure that you hit the
If you got
subscribe
goosebumps
button
too.
below. We'd
Yeah.
love to hear your comments. Did this resonate? What are other things you would like us just to talk about on our Soul Talk, real, raw conversations that we're having? And if you want to go deeper, the links to connect with us are below. So
Absolutely.
until
Ready?
next time,
Until
stay,
next time, stay
stay curious,
curious
stay open,
and, and keep listening to the wisdom within you.
and we love you.
Bye bye. Namaste.